Good afternoon. This speech is going to be about mental health measures of Peru, and I have divided my speech in 3 parts: introduction, development, and conclusion. In the first part, I'm going to say my point of view, then I'm going to give some information for context, and then I'm going to repeat my point of view. In the second part, I'm going to say 3 points, and in each point, I'm going to mention an article of the Mental Health Act number 3947. In the last part, I'm going to give a conclusion, and I'm going to repeat those 3 points I mentioned in the development, and then I'm going to give a very short personal opinion. The words I use the most in this speech are treatment, prevention, measures, psychologists, mental illness, mental health, mental disorder, mental health problems. Some terms could be community mental health center, supportive housing locations, and the Mental Health Act number 3947. And I think that would be all in terms of terminology. And I also say some names in Spanish, which are Plan Nacional de Fortalecimiento de Servicios de Salud Mental Comunitaria. And the other one is Buen Inicio del Año Escolar 2019. Now, about the principles, there were some principles I use. I use verticality and shifting, as you can see. For example, here is the subject, the verb, and the complement. Here there is another example. The subject, the verb, and the complement. And I use verticality and shifting in all my note-taking system. I use some symbols and abbreviations too. For example, the ones I always use are this one for talking, this is to think, this is people, this is a person. Other ones, for example, here, to listen, and some symbols for this topic. For example, psychologist, if it's plural with an S. Psychiatrist, it's a little bit different from psychologist. And then I use abbreviations. For example, for this one, prevention, and above that, the last letters of the word. And for example, for mental illness, for mental disorders, mental health problems, I use the first letter of those words. And I think that's all. Thank you. Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about how mental health measures are being implemented in Peru and why I think some of them need to improve so that prevention and treatment of mental disorders are accessible to everyone. Peru's Ministry of Health has created the Plan Nacional de Fortalecimiento de Servicios de Salud Mental Comunitaria. And thanks to this plan, now we have 152 community mental health centers, 30 hospitals, and 11 supportive housing locations. However, the government needs to improve some aspects in the Mental Health Act number 3947 and make more efforts so that all measures become reality. First, the Mental Health Act number 3947 doesn't mention psychologists among the people in charge of making a diagnosis of a mental illness. According to the Article 25 of this Act, diagnosis and determination of the existence of a mental health problem are made by a certified psychiatrist, and in the absence of this by a certified surgeon. As you have heard, psychologists are not mentioned, and in my opinion, they actually play the most important role in the prevention and treatment of mental illness. As Luis Perez, the Dean of the Association of Psychologists of Peru, mentioned, people should go first to a psychologist to get a diagnosis, and depending on the mental illness, they can be treated by a psychologist. In other words, without medicine. Second, after having carried out the operation Buen Inicio del Año Escolar 2019, it was reported that 89% of public schools don't have psychologists. However, according to the Article 34 regarding the education in mental health, public and private educational institutions should implement prevention programs to protect students from potential mental health risks. They should also promote the inclusion of curricular content related to the prevention of mental health problems and healthy lifestyles. Therefore, I think psychologists should be part of these school programs through counseling sessions. And they should also teach students what mental illness are, so that they are aware of them. And this leads me to the last aspect. In Peru, there is a social stigma about people who have a mental illness and mental health itself. In other countries, it's normal to see advertisements about different treatments for mental disorders. Or it's normal to talk about going to a psychologist or going to therapists. But here, people see this as something strange, and that's why people with a mental illness try to hide those things. The Article 17 regarding the prevention of mental health problems emphasizes the elimination of the stigma and discrimination. It also emphasizes the access to information about programs and services that benefits mental health. However, there aren't enough efforts to meet those measures. I think there should be more TV commercials and programs that talk about mental health. And the website of the Ministry of Health should include more information about mental disorders, the symptoms, and what to do when we have those symptoms. In conclusion, the government needs to improve those three aspects I mentioned before. Let psychologists make a diagnosis, therefore they should be included in the Mental Health Act number 3947. Public schools should have psychologists, and finally, more information about mental health should be spread in Peru. And in order to achieve this, the government should make more efforts and should invest more in mental health. Thank you.